Hi everyone, Greg McMillan here, and welcome to one last episode of the iPhoneography podcast for this year, officially the last one of 2021. There's no episode number for this one, just a title, and it's called The Best of 2021. I thought I'd put together a compilation of moments from a variety of episodes throughout the year. I don't have all the video from all the episodes because when I started the YouTube channel, I spent a lot of time over the months trying to figure out a workflow, and quite frankly, I'm still working on it. I began editing the videos in iMovie, and am now using a big boy editing program, DaVinci Resolve. It was very intimidating at the start, but I'm learning as I go. I wanted to mention, in case anyone was wondering, why you don't, or rarely at least, hear us talk about anything to do with COVID-19 or the pandemic in general. Well, quite frankly, I'm sick and tired of hearing about it, and I don't even like talking about it to begin with. We all know it's present in our lives every day, so I want to bring you a podcast where you can tune in or watch on YouTube and have some content that you find interesting, I hope, and serves as an escape from the same old blah blah news we all hear about too much. So the clips I've selected are some of the things I found to be interesting enough to put out again. And rather than record video of myself talking in between the clips, I elected to record audio, like you're hearing now, and just show some of my favorite photos from the past few years. Trust me, it's better this way. And for audio listeners, I've added images where possible to the enhanced feed so you can see what we're talking about. The images will display on your phone screen, even in CarPlay, and in the Apple Podcasts app and Pocket Casts. I don't know about any other podcast players because those are the only two that I've used, but hopefully you can see them however you're listening. This first one is from episode 38, and because Dave looked a little different, and by different I mean his setup was not his usual one, I wanted to give him a chance to explain to the YouTube viewers why this happened.
Um, Just let folks know, Dave, about your situation with your computer and what you're doing there. You're not in your usual spot by the looks of things.
Well, I'm a little bit similar place, but different computer.
Right.
We've had to rejigger things a little bit. Normally, I do this on an iMac with that big, beautiful screen right in front of me. But we've had to move things around because Ruth had to use the iMac for her work. And instead of me unplugging it, hauling it, this is the one advantage of a laptop versus a desktop, even a simple unplug and plug it in, it just works. Having to unplug, lug up 27 inches of aluminum, plop it down the desk, find room, rehook everything up, get it running. And then at the end of the day, unplug everything, lug it back downstairs, plug it in so she can use it tomorrow. I'm just going off my regular, I know this may be a swear word for some people, Windows machine. Yeah. So I'm assuming the camera on the iMac is bad. I mean, yours is better. They improved it on
they really improved it. Yeah,
on the M1 iMac they improved it, but the old Intel ones were crappy.
Yeah, they're only
compared to what they should.
Yeah.
I mean, they're better than some, but even though it was crappy, this webcam's even worse. So I can actually tell on what I'm seeing coming back. Now, if you're listening to this on a podcast, who cares? I'm actually using the same mic and headset that I normally use, so that's not going to affect anything. But I'm a little more, I can actually tell I'm a little more pixelated now than what I normally am. So hopefully, knock on wood, no audio hiccup or any weird stuff going on with the going off of and actually it's around the same age. They gave us this laptop at work around the same time I actually bought the iMac.
For some strange reason, we often start the show with a little discussion about the weather, and I really don't understand why. Maybe it's a Canadian thing? I don't know. I guess it could be because every time I see my neighbors, that's one of the first things we mention. But I do know that when we were on Tiny Shutter, since I was the only Canadian, the guys would be sure to let me know that our summers lasted about 3 weeks, and we were right back into winter again. This was a short clip where I wanted to let folks know we were in that short summertime frame when we actually had hot weather.
It was actually hot as blazes today. So,
Oh,
everybody that thinks Canada is a cold country, no, I got news for
no.
you.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was a warm one.
we were warm, but we weren't unseasonably warm.
Yeah.
One thing I love about iPhoneography is the community that's behind it all. On episode 39, Dave and I talked about this, and it was a great discussion. Of course, there were way too many communities to include in this short clip.
What else we were going to talk about this week was, okay, so I saw a tweet on Twitter because that's where tweets are, and it was from Elaine Taylor over in the UK, and she, and this people do this on Twitter, and it's really cool. It's a really cool thing. They'll put on Twitter, some of the people that they look up to in photography and things like that, and I'm talking about the mobile space here. So they'll put on mobile photographers that they like and all this stuff. And I got to start doing this, but they'll put, just a shout out, right? Just a shout out, or a follow Friday thing or whatever. And, the response from that was pretty cool. And what it reminded me of was that the community aspect in mobile photography is something, it's just really special because everybody, no matter what camera you're using, and when I say camera, I mean phone, like whether it's an Android or like a Samsung or an iPhone, doesn't matter. Everybody gets, everybody's pleasant with everybody about it. I don't see any feuds or arguments or anything going on these places. And let me get my notes up here because I have a few places where I'm present, Dave's present in some of them. And I thought we just kind of just touch on some of these places and kind of go over the experience that we have with them. So, I mean, the first one I think is really huge for you and I, Dave, and that's the Tiny Shutter Facebook group.
Right.
That's where basically it all began for me, as far as like being in a community and stuff. And Mark Sadowski runs it, and it's still fairly active, even though the Tiny Shutter podcast isn't something that you find regularly anymore. It's not gone yet, but it's out there. And I mean, there's a lot. I still haven't listened to episode 1 yet. I want to go back and hear that and see what that was like, because I think it's going to be funny. But
Something I rarely do is use the selfie camera. But because we did a series of shows where we featured each camera on the iPhone, I felt I had to put myself out there and do a little demonstration of Apple's Clips app.
I got my phone sitting here staring at me.
Okay.
I'm staring at myself. We'll just show just a couple of little features of Clips. You hit the little star, and then you've got a list of things here. Now, this is where you can find your emoji.
There we go.
There I am, large as life, and the mouth moves, and even if I wink with one eye will
There
wink
we go.
back.
That works.
Yeah. And then of course you've got your animals.
Mm-hmm.
you almost have to hold it like at arm's length to get the whole thing in.
Yeah, they're a little bit wider.
Yeah.
And of course you can make the emoji not look like you too.
Yeah. So this these are some different film looks and things like that. Filters, I guess you could call them.
Yep.
I'm just discovering that this myself, as I do it. So if I kind of go speechless, it's because I'm kind of taken aback at how it looks. Like
Well, I don't. I know this isn't directly related to the selfie camera, but I don't think a lot of people realize how powerful clips can be.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because the thing that you just passed over. This is the
It's like, wallpapers, I
the
guess.
different. Well, those are the different scenes. So if you
Yeah.
actually move around, like there, if you actually you move the camera around, you can
Yep.
actually see like different areas, or you can move your head. It's actually there's a scene and it's actually placing in front of it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now the only thing is that only works with the selfie camera.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's
But
neat.
it works. You kind of figure at one time when you needed a green screen and everything else, and you need and you're basically doing it, and you're downloading a lot. Oh, okay. There's a
Yeah.
Pixar thing right there.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
The
The
Incredibles.
Incredibles. How cool is that?
And it's like I said, the fact that we're able to do this on a phone is pretty amazing.
When I interviewed David Addison on episode 42, I had to do it solo because, well, you wouldn't know it by his accent. And yes, David has an accent, even though he says I'm the one with the accent. But because he's located in the UK, I had to hold the session earlier in the day while Dave Podner was working. If you're watching the video version of this interview, you'll see that David was either very camera shy or he just didn't want to look at me while we spoke. I'm kidding, of course. David is anything but camera shy. He has well over 8,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel, and it's continually growing. Plus, he was looking at me on his computer screen, but the camera he used to record himself was off to the side.
Who I am and what I do. Geez. I will tell you how I will tell you I'm on YouTube and why I started my channel. I'm a photographer and I just love to help people. I want to use how many years has it been now? Since 2006. Is that like 15 years? Take my 15 years of photography experience and help people take the best picture they can with whatever camera that they've got with them. And that's what gives me a buzz. That's why I get out of bed in the morning to help.
Yeah. So, so you've been doing photography for 15 years, but what about with your iPhone? How did that start?
Since 2018, I used to have a Samsung Galaxy S6, and all my friends had an iPhone. I was the only Samsung, and I forget why I switched.
You were the dreaded green bubble?
I was the green bubble, yeah. And I switched to an iPhone. I can't remember why, but it was this iPhone SE. And I really don't know what got me into. I just like the idea of making the best pictures with this little thing, and people not being able to, like, people are so obsessed with gear. You've heard of gas, like gear acquisition syndrome, and I'm just like, I can't afford all that gear. I'm just going to learn as much as I can and take the best pictures I can with whatever that I've got with me, and it happened to be the iPhone. And I did a video, how to trick people into thinking you've got an expensive camera. That was one of my first YouTube videos, where I take my D800, Nikon D800, with a 14 to 24. It's like a very expensive setup. And I compared it to the iPhone, and I showed people pictures, iPhone or 5,000 euros worth of photography gear, which one's which, and they got it wrong. So that's kind of what kickstarted my my iPhone photography journey, if you like. Go and watch that video, by the way. It's a really good one that no one's watched.
It's on your channel?
It's on YouTube, yeah. It's
Okay.
from like 2018. It's when I filmed it when I was living in Romania. So it's a very different scene. I look very young, even though it's only a few years ago.
Well, we'll definitely put a link to that in the show notes too, so people can get to it real quick.
It's very.
During the interview with David, I took a moment to explain why I started producing a video version of the show and what it would take to keep it going. So far, it's going better than I expected, and I have all the subscribers to thank for that.
When I first put this on YouTube, I wasn't sure where it was going to go. I mean, it's still nowhere really, but I thought to myself, like, I'm going to give it maybe 6 months. And if I can get, you know, a quarter of the subscriptions here that I do of the listeners of the audio, then, maybe I'll just keep it going and see what happens. So, I mean, I'm only, I don't know, 7 or 8 episodes in. This will be episode 42. I should have mentioned that at the start, but I think I started putting them on YouTube at episode 35 or something like that. So it's early days for this YouTube channel, but like I say, what'll drive me is the number of people who actually subscribe or watch, and if they keep subscribing and keep watching, then I'll keep doing it. Why not? Sometimes I think it's better than audio only, because you could see what we're talking about as opposed to just hearing it, and it's sometimes hard to describe what you're talking about without actually seeing it too. So listeners, go to the YouTube channel.
David has done some great app reviews on his channel. In fact, the first time I ever saw him on YouTube was when I watched his review for Halide, the first one. In this clip, we talked a bit about how developers get the best out of the hardware.
A little tip for anyone listening: if you shoot in JPEG or hike, and I'm sticking with the hike pronunciation, by the way, I don't care what Apple says. Apple pronounced it hike, I'm saying hike. So make hike happen, everyone. If you shoot processed, even ProRAW, the quality will differ between apps, and that's a spoiler alert for my upcoming video, by the way. And so have I answered your question? I think I have. Yeah. Any app that'll shoot in RAW, really.
Yeah. So
Depends what I'm reviewing.
And Halide is my go-to as well. And I think to your point, where there's differences between apps when it comes to, like, ProRAW and Hike. I think the difference is just what the developer can get out of the cameras.
Definitely. And I didn't realize that. I just thought developers just have a checklist and they tick Hike and they tick ProRAW, and that's it. The iPhone does all the work. Apple does all the work with its API. But it's not the case. And I've actually interviewed a few developers. Maybe the Halide developers participated. Maybe they didn't. You'll have to watch the video. And it's interesting what they told me about how they actually get the best quality out of these things. It's up to the skill of the developer, which something that a lot of people appreciate. I think developers are very underappreciated.
In my final clip with Mr. Addison, he expresses his desire for folks to not blame him if they buy an app based on his reviews, and I give my advice to people looking to get an app.
I want to encourage people. I might start doing it too. Like, don't just listen to me. Go out and do your own research, because people are spending hundreds of dollars on apps because I recommended it. People are telling me, dude, I bought Moment when you said to buy Moment. I bought Halide. I bought this app. I bought that app. I'm like, don't stop. Please stop. Pick one and then and use it. So I might start telling people, I recommend this app, but don't buy it.
Unless well, you know what I do is I'll tell people to do the research when, like, I've had people ask me, what app should I get for a camera app, let's say, and I just tell them, do some homework, do some research, go to each developer's website, look up the app, look at what it can do, and find one that suits you the best. And usually they have a free trial. So if they have a free trial, go ahead, give it a go. Try them all if there's free trials, and then whatever one suits you the best, that's the one you can commit to.
Sometimes when I edit a video, I don't always get things right. In this clip from episode 43, where I was talking about my newly acquired Struman Optics cinematic macro lens, I put my name in the lower third of the screen, as one does when they make a video, but I had Dave Podner's Instagram username showing instead of my own?
That I need to work software and hardware combined to get the shot I want. But you only really get that by testing it out like you've been doing
Yeah,
and
because
getting a good feel for it.
and I'm still getting used to which way I have to turn that,
Mhm.
to see which way it has to go to get closer or further away, and still getting used to which way that has to go. And that came in real handy today when I was out. We took my wife and I took her mom down to a gardens down at the local. I guess it's the local arena, but they've got a garden center kind of thing out, like that. The garden club, the city garden club, looks after it, and
If you're familiar with the show, you'll know I'm no stranger to giving shoutouts to my friends and peers. I had ordered a t-shirt from Shane Mostyn's merchandise collection and just had to show it off.
oh, and before we go any further, I want to give a shout out to the bloody legend Shane Mostyn. Here, I'll stand up so you can see it on YouTube. Bloody Legends, Shane Mostyn, and I've got my shirt on that says "It's the duck's nuts," and I can tell you that Struman lens is the duck's nuts. That's a phrase they use in Australia that
Okay.
here in Canada anyway, we say the cat's meow a lot.
Yeah.
But in Australia, it's the duck's nuts. And it sure is. So I got this shirt the other day that I ordered from Shane, and I told him I was going to wear it tonight. So there it is.
Australia's Mike James from Smartphone Photography Training joined us for a discussion about his training website, communities, and storytelling in photography. In this clip from episode 46, Mike illustrates just how emotional it can be when talking about the importance of photography.
Just let everybody know, because I know this because we've talked about this before, but let everybody know the importance of getting a photo of a family member, because there's a photo you have of your mother that is just absolutely priceless for you and your family.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's hard because people our age, we don't like selfies.
Yeah.
My kids take selfies multiple times every day. But
That's the generation.
Yeah, I know. I wish I could get over it, but it's just so hard. Yeah, and it is, because the photos they're a gift for others. We enjoy taking them, but a lot of my students say that one of the reasons they want to improve their photography is to be able to give them to, literally give them to people as gifts for Christmas and that sort of thing. And I know myself, we put together a bit of a family album for all of us, and we give that to my dad and my wife's parents as their Christmas gift. And at first it was a bit weird, hey, here's some photos of us. It's all about us, and giving that to them. But they love it. And when we were living overseas prior to COVID, and had to kind of rush back to Australia to lockdown, it's that year we missed the album because we were just so busy, and they were just devastated. It's like, oh, come on, where's our calendar? So it's a gift for other people, and that's it. And one of the things I forgot to mention there is when I first got into it, I the live photos on the iPhone, I thought it was a bit gimmicky, and thought, it's just annoying, this scrolling through the Photos app, and got all these wiggling photos, and prior to iOS 13, it kind of felt like a bit of a gimmick. Now you got the long exposure and all that sort of cool stuff in there as well. But there's one of those photos that I have of my mum. One of them was actually a live photo, so we could actually hold our finger on there, and we've got a couple of seconds of my mum's voice. And as you say, that's just priceless, because memories fade. And my youngest now, he's now 9, and so he was 3, and so he doesn't really remember grandma, but every now and again he grabs that photo and he plays it, and it's just priceless.
We love having Matt Hoffman on the show. If he's nothing, he's brutally honest, and I appreciate that so much. He joined us for episode 47, where we talked about the new halide update that brought us a new macro mode. This was on the coattails of the iPhone 13 release, where the 13 Pro phones had a new macro mode in the ultra-wide camera. A few days before the recording, I asked Matt if he'd tried halide's update yet. He was going to check it out over the weekend prior to recording and talk about it on the show. Let's see what he had to say about it.
I don't know what to say about it, honestly. So at first, like when I saw you say something, and I guess I'm really like out of tune. I haven't been on too much on social media and stuff, so I missed their little teases and whatnot. But in any case, I thought there was going to be like, something about it that like only Halide could bring. Like they figured out a way to shoot in macro and have the output be like raw or pro raw or something like that. So I got really excited about it for that, right? And unfortunately, that's not really what it does. It really kind of behaves essentially like Camera Plus 2. So I played with it this weekend, and I'll show some pictures in a little bit here or whatever. What I should have done if I was thinking about this more, I should have taken a shot with halide and then taken a shot with Camera Plus 2, the same shot to compare them. I didn't do that. I just had like halide on and just snapped away, a whole bunch of flowers and bugs and stuff, and had fun with it. I will say, so I've never been disappointed with Camera Plus 2 and the results that I've gotten from it. I've always been impressed with it. But looking at what I was able to capture with halide, like the magnification's the same, right? It's the exact same macro ratio or whatever as you would get, with Camera Plus 2. So it's not doing anything different there. But man, the pictures look great. They look really, really good. Like the the bokeh or depth of field. Let's call it depth of field. It's not really bokeh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Depth of field it's a really nice transition. It doesn't look artificial. It doesn't look like computational or anything like that. It looks very natural. And then the in focus part, I mean, I'm just pretty amazed with the amount of detail that it's capturing. So
While we were pixel peeping at halide macro, I thought I would illustrate the difference between halide's computational macro and the macro that's possible with a lens, like the Struman macro. And this is just a picture of her fur with halide, halide macro. And as you can see, the computational stuff is so, it's working overtime, to get the highlights and shadows and everything, to try to give you that good exposure or whatever. And then this is with the Struman macro lens. And what I did was I tried to get these, I tried to get close to the same spot on her body there too, so to get a good comparison of the hair, but I'm not sure I did. So what do? This lens I have comes with a cap on the backside to keep the backside clean. I put the cap on her fur. And this is a shot taken with halide, but no macro, but just with the Struman macro lens on it. And then I did the same shot with just halide macro. And you can see the difference in her hair or fur. I'm not sure if it's hair or fur on this dog, but she's non-shedding, so I don't know what that means. But anyway, it's obviously computer or computationally exposed and sharpened and all that stuff, more so than here where you've got an optical macro shot. And then of course,
it's a real big difference.
Double tap on that lens cap with the Struman and then with the halide macro.
and then double tap again with the halide with the Struman. Now she was breathing, so that's why I'm saying that this is just a tad blurry. I tried to wait till she was like between breaths, but you know, it was kind of hard to do. But anyway, and then this last one, that is the halide 3x macro, and you can see the difference in clarity between those two. So as much as I appreciate halide and love what they do, you cannot beat optics or glass when it comes to doing macros. I just wanted to point that out.
When episode 48 came out, Dave Podner had just received his new iPhone 13 Pro Max, but was a little apprehensive about going to a larger phone. He had the iPhone 10 and really liked the form factor of that phone. Let's have a listen and see if size matters to Dave.
So let's go like we did with, when Ruth got her phone, first impressions, just right off the bat, first impressions.
Sure. And I might do a little show and tell. And for audio people, I will try to explain as much as possible. Now, this is actually, I got Ruth's phone. As I said, I just need to borrow your phone while you're doing your show. And she said, okay,
Yep.
take my phone. Okay. So this is Ruth's phone. This is her. She has the iPhone 13 non-pro, the 6.1 inch, which is close to the size of my old 10. So this is the max. So
Wow.
exactly. It's substantially larger than, it's kind of bright here, but you can kind of see the size there, substantially larger. And I did get the Sierra Blue, which can be best described as it's almost a steel blue.
Now that we know that size does indeed matter for Dave, let's find out why. I think he makes a valid point here.
Because it's big, it's got a bigger battery, and that's heavy. And it's got the stainless steel bands on the outside versus the aluminum bands that Ruth's phone has. So it's got all this stuff adding, and of course, being bigger, you have the bigger screen that adds weight. So, it makes it, and that does matter in terms of photography, because if you're trying to take a photo with the regular camera, no problem at all for me. And I would say this, I have smallish hands. So that is something to keep in mind. Like, okay, this phone works good for me, Ruth's phone. So when I try to do the same thing with my phone, my hands are having a lot harder time getting around it. And if you want to make sure you're steady, like for a night shot, and you're trying to do a handheld, this is a lot harder to keep steady because of the size of the heft than Ruth's phone.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to do night shots, at least for me, now, again, your mileage may vary. I had my couple times I tried initial handheld night shots, her phone came out better. Now, with the wide camera, they're pretty, one's 1.5, 1.6. Other than that, they're basically the same camera. Just the fact that I was able to hold hers a little bit, more still. And mine was just a little bit jiggly because of the weight and the size was an issue.
Dave had high hopes for the photos he'd get from the 13 Pro Max, and after using the 10 for a few years, who could blame him? This was the latest and greatest iPhone, the flagship. Since I didn't upgrade this year, the pressure was on Dave to try out this new camera system and tell us about his experiences. Let's hear what he had to say on episode 49 about shooting for the moon.
Venus, very, very bright tonight, clear sky, bare crescent moon. So it was bright enough that you could actually see the non-lit part of the moon in an outline in the sky. And it was gorgeous. And I'm like, okay, I have an iPhone 13 Pro Max. I have the big one. I'm going to try, and I've taken pretty good night photos. Let's see if I can get some decent photos at night. And I had it, and on the 1X, because I know that's the best for the light gathering, I'm like, ugh, the moon looks like a giant splotch. Because it was just
Oh no.
literally a thin crescent. I was thinking maybe this just because even though as bright as it was enough of a thin crescent, you could just kind of capture the little crescent. And so I'm like, okay. And it was like, ugh. And Venus, very bright. It picked up both. It's like, okay, so I'll try the 3X. I know light gathering isn't as good, but you got the night mode. I held it very steady on the thing. And it was a little blurry and the moon still looked like a blob. I tried editing on various Lightroom. I tried Polar. I tried doing it in RAW, doing Snapseed in RAW. Just trying different things, throwing everything at the wall, saying the best I could do was a blob still for the moon, but you could still see a crescent shape of a blob versus a circle blob. But that's the limit. That's true. This is physics. You have something that's this big, and the moon being literally that bright because of the reflectiveness, it blows out everything else.
The next episode was a bit of a milestone for us. We hit episode 50. Not a lot of fanfare went on, but we just thought it was cool.
Hey everyone, this is episode 50, the big 50 of the iPhoneography podcast, and that's including back in the days when we had the Artful iPhoneography interviews, and but still, that's a not a bad milestone, and just glad to be able to be here this long, and to come along with the ride with me is my good friend and co-host Dave Podner. Hi, Dave.
Greg, congratulations on 50.
Oh, thanks.
Always going for those nice round numbers.
Oh yeah, we're just waiting for the time we can add another 0 to that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to celebrate, and this is something that's a U.S. joke. So we're going to celebrate with the luau and go surfing with the big 50.
Oh yeah, I got you. Yep. So yeah, we hit the big 50, and that's something, I guess, because I've seen other podcasts that come and go, and I mean, we're nowhere near Tiny Shutter yet, so we got a long way to go yet, but we'll just keep plugging away.
I was approached via a DM on Instagram by one of the developers behind an app called Gala to see if I'd be interested in trying a new thing called Looped, which is like a digital identity. Hey, I'll try just about anything, so I set it up. It's not an app, it's web-based, so I thought, well, what do I have to lose, right? Matt Hoffman was coming on the show for the final regular episode of the year to talk about Pixelmator Photo, but we also talked a little bit about Looped. You know Matt, he's a man who speaks his mind, and I love that about him. Here's a clip from episode 52.
Earlier this evening, I gave you a really hard time about this because I just I can't wrap my head around like the purpose of it, right? And my whole thinking was like, it like Greg, like you have a website, right? So like I was it just wrapped up in this thing where like, why would you tell somebody like to go to this Looped thing when you could direct them to your website, and your website probably has links to Instagram and YouTube and all the other places that you are? Like, I don't get it. And even if you didn't have a website, right, if you have whatever, Instagram or Flickr or whatever, most social sites have a place where you could put links to other social sites, Twitter and all that jazz, right? So I was like, I don't get it. I cannot wrap my head around the purpose of this, right? But I think I just thought of a great way to utilize this, and that is in your email signature.
I've always tried to make the final version of the show videos look and sound the best I could, but as my pal Mark Sadowski says, sometimes you just can't polish a turd. In the last episode, and since I'm still working on making the show better, I tried a new intro that was recorded at the end of the session, and as luck would have it, I messed it up on the first attempt. Well, I thought I'd throw it in at the end of that show, and in case you missed it, here it is.
You know,
Yeah,
and
I
all
mean,
this and more coming up in.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
I'm gonna try it again.
did you want to write it down real quick? Do you have? Yeah, well, you
No,
don't have to
'cause-
focus. About that, I didn't know if that way you wouldn't have to focus on the words. You only have to focus on the delivery then.
Yeah. Well, I've got the notes right here, right? So
Okay.
I'm trying not to look at them. I want to look at the camera, but okay, I got it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Pixelmator photo. What good is this?
What good is it? Worthless crap.
Who needs it? Yes.
Oh, I see a blooper reel coming. Okay.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
So there you have it. Some of the moments from 2021 since we started posting to YouTube. I hope you enjoyed them because we really enjoy bringing you the podcast. I also hope that you had a wonderful time during the recent festive season, and I wish you nothing but success and good health in the coming year. Finally, before I go, have you ever wondered where I got that theme music from that I used to play at the opening and closing of the podcast? Well, I stopped using it because I didn't want to make you all sick of hearing it, but it's a tune I put together in GarageBand on my Mac. Here's the whole song for you. I call it Where's My Keys At? Because I'm bad for putting them somewhere and not being able to find them. I love the blues, and this is my attempt at making a blues tune. If you're listening to the audio, I'm just showing more photos from days gone by while the song plays out. Let me know in the comments what you think of it. And also, if you have anything you'd like to hear us talk about on the show, leave that in the comments as well. On behalf of Dave Podner and myself, thank you all for watching and listening. God bless. Well,
I guess we'll see everybody next year.
Sounds good.
All right. Bye
Okay.
bye.